easiest. Welcome to Forever Exiled, a Path of Exile podcast. This is episode 9. I am one of your hosts, Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Yeah, so 9. We're at 9 now. We're one away from our big car giveaway in episode 10.
Your pocket, not
please,
mine, right?
Please hold us to that. Episode 10. It's a car.
That's right.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for this car giveaway.
Yeah, just imagine the excitement to winning a car. Oh my gosh. Wow. Anyway,
for a podcast.
Make sure you listen in episode 10.
Makes sense to me. Yeah, no, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. This is episode 9. I'm excited. I'm really enjoying this. It's been fun. What really quickly just wanted to just shout out everybody and say thanks for listening. I think tonight we'll crack 2,000 listens, which is insane.
That's really cool for 9 episodes. Really cool. And we've gotten a lot of feedback as well. And thank you very much for all your feedback. It's been a lot of nice encouragement, but please feel free to let us know what you'd like out of the podcast too. But we appreciate you being honest with us, and thank you.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So let's hop right into it. This is Path of Exile, Forever Exile, the Path of Exile podcast. So we should talk Path of Exile. So you start. Let's hear about your build. Let's see, where are you at right now?
Well, speaking of Dark Souls, I was last week. I started off kind of bummed out because my buddy and I were playing Dark Souls the night before, and we couldn't beat the boss, right? The Fume Knight at the bottom of the DLC, and well, we did it first try. Next time we got together, so things have been looking up. In terms of Path of Exile, though. It's actually been a slow play week. I've been doing a lot of guide stuff. I'm revamping my guides to include general leveling sections and also kind of like a dream mod section for the gear area. So I've been kind of revamping the layout of it, which takes a lot of effort. And so I've been doing that in guide replies. I think I only put in maybe an hour and a half of gameplay this week. So
are you just playing?
Tell me.
Well, I'm not done with you. Are you just playing your guide builds then? Because you've given up on PC.
Yeah, I unfortunately bailed on my Scion build. But yeah, when I am playing, I'm playing through my 5 remaining guides, and I'm playing on standard. And I do my best to try and put in at least an hour a day so that I'm progressing through the new Atlas and I'm getting a good recent feels for how these builds are as the Atlas gets more difficult. Just with guide writing, it's just been a busier week with guide writing than it has been for gameplay. So next week, my focus is going to try and get a couple hours a night, at least a couple hours per build throughout the week. So given that we're still only like, a little bit over a month into this league, are you going to try anything else on PC in the league? Probably not.
No, probably
not. Just the demands for ensuring that I'm up to date with knowledge for guide replies. I want to make sure that normally I would start over and I'd start a second character. I'd maybe try something that I'd maybe try and modify with my guide and see what the gameplay's like for leveling. But just because it's really new endgame content, and I see on Reddit and a whole bunch of other requests, people are like, hey, what's a good boss killer for Cyrus? And what's, can you, just asking the general community, not me, but hey, what are good suggestions for this? Or what can you do with this? I only have 3 exalts. What can I do with this? And I'd love to respond with my guides, but I haven't gotten to Cyrus yet. So normally I would have a second playthrough started, but this time around, just because it's brand new content, I really want to get to it as fast as I can.
So out of the, you have 5? Is it 5 guides that you're running?
5 guides, yes.
Right. So do you have a favorite that you're playing right now?
I like them really all equally. I have a minion guide. I have an energy shield and spell guide. I have a melee guide. Well, 2 melee guides. And so I like them all. Like, one's like pure blocking, one's just crazy dodge happy, one's chaos inoculation, and it's close quarter combat, which is really cool with no leech. It's a lot of fun. And it sounds completely contrary, but the survivability is fantastic. I absolutely love the laziness of minions. And RF is just RF. It's fantastic, especially when you don't need specific weapons and gear. It's just great. So I don't know. They each match a mood, but I guess no matter when you'd ask me in my gameplay career, we could say I've always been a minion fan.
Right. So that's sort of like, that's the best guide. People should follow that one.
It's the oldest one. It started in 3.0 or 3.1, but I think PoE 2 will be the ultimate test for which is my favorite. I'll probably end up, my first guide I reconstruct for PoE 2 will likely be the minion one.
So one thing that I actually just through the course of this week was reading, I don't remember how I saw it, some other stuff that came up, but I actually heard that the minion style build specters, they're actually apparently still quite strong, which is cool.
Yeah. We've in previous podcasts, we were making fun about how
they got slammed.
Tyler specific skills and minions were getting crushed, but none others. And it does seem, contrary to the elemental hit balance, it does seem that even though zombies were hit hard and specters, that it was just a really good balance.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I'm impressed. Yeah, how's yours going? Tell me about your build. That was a lot of me. You go.
So mine might be a little bit interesting. I dumped SSF
Debatable.
At level 89. I was one level off of where I wanted to get to in SSF.
Still 89 for you is impressive.
It was, yeah.
Not getting to 89, but getting to 89 in SSF.
In SSF, yeah. So that was a Spectral Throw build. You know what? I did have a lot of fun playing it, but it was a like third or fourth Baron fight. He's the like lightning guardian boss guy, the new guy.
The squares?
Yeah, the squares. He just wrecked me. Like two sets of spawning him, blowing all the portals, and just being able to do absolutely nothing to him and just being like, boom, dead. I don't know exactly what it was. I was way overcapped on lightning. The problem with Spectral Throw for me is, even with slower projectiles, it takes a bit to ramp up when you're leeching that life back. And I couldn't do it. And I got so frustrated because I was really struggling with claws. I just wasn't getting good drops. I couldn't craft anything that was working for me. So I finally was like, screw it. I'm going to leave. So I left Solo So Found, went into the standard trade league. Well, not standard, sorry. The Metamorph trade league.
Yep.
Started playing, picked up some new pieces of gear. It was quite a bit better. I was able to do a lot more. And then I don't know what happened. I just kind of got not bored, because I'm actually loving this league, but I was kind of bored of the Spectral Throw. I wasn't really feeling the gameplay and the way that I was playing. So I actually sold all of his gear. I sold all the drops because I actually came out of SSF with a lot of expensive stuff that I had found, which was awesome.
Just no claws.
Yeah, no claws. And
Who needs claws?
I started thinking about trying to do something else. And one thing with Metamorph, and I guess it actually goes along with the new Atlas and the new Endgame, is, and I actually think I like this, because I've always struggled to find something that can map quickly and kill bosses. And it's really hard.
Like a nice combo of both.
Right. It's always been relatively difficult to find a way that I want to play, with a skill that I want to play, with gear that I want to use, that can do both of them. And what I'm finding
outside of my zombie build that you always are tempted to do.
Yeah, that's typically my go-to when I really just want to conquer the game. That's actually not really fair, because it is a good build, but it's not my style of play. It does work.
You can diss my builds as a friend. It's okay.
I love them. You're a wonderful person. But the one thing that I really liked with Metamorph, I was finding, is that it is a really boss heavy league, and I actually really like that. It's one of the first leagues in quite a long time where I actually don't feel like I need to play something that is just crushing maps, that's like flying through maps as fast as I possibly can, because that is the end game. I don't feel like that in this league. I feel like there actually is a really big focus on, these are tough boss fights, and you kind of need to build around them. So I thought, okay, I want to maybe sit back and sort of rethink that. So what I did was I went back to, I don't know if you remember, this is going back a number of leagues, but I played a Juggernaut Molten Strike, and I remember making it that league. I think I actually was doing a lab. It was for playing with like a lab, like an Uber lab farmer. I think. I don't actually remember. But I remember it being really strong for bossing and going like the Nebulox and just really heavy on.
I remember that. Yeah, your lab farming league. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I last night I started selling all my gear off, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna pull up a tree. I started playing around with the Juggernaut and started leveling a new person. So the one thing that's really nice when you get into the trading league and you have currency is leveling is really fast and it's actually really nice. So I think I got to 48 or 49 in like 2.5 hours last night, just like awesome. Flying through. So I'm just at the end of Act 5, I think now. Yeah, so I'm going to try that out. It's more focused. I don't want to die to bosses. I want to be able to, maybe I'll map a little bit slower, which I'm okay with because I feel like that's kind of a direction they're going anyway. And I want to be focused on being able to kill those bosses and play with them. So that's where I'm at. I'm sort of just re-leveling somebody new. But I actually had a thought yesterday, and I was going to pose this to you. So
that's dangerous.
I know. Here's my question. I mean, you're not creating another character this league because you're a quitter. But if I was thinking that, because what happens is you make a character in this game, and one thing I love about this game is the respecs they're really non-existent unless they're very expensive. If you're paying for, a ton of orbs, then maybe you can kind of respec. But to respec a level 90 plus character, it's expensive, and I love that about it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you definitely have to earn it.
So, but then and that's sort of always been the case with this game. I've always loved it. You could actually brick a character and realize like, okay, this is just not going to work. I'm going to have to create a new guy and try something new the next time.
Yeah.
I wish, and I don't know how it would ever work, but I want it so that if I kill Act 10 Kitava, so I beat the game.
Yeah.
That any next character I create gets like a 10% movement buff or a 10% XP buff until I enter a map or I kill Act 10 Kitava. So that the next character that I make helps me get to maps faster, because I don't think there's very many people that like the leveling process. I hate it. It's really tedious. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm just mindlessly going through it because now I just want to get to the end. And then I thought, now what if I get there with the second character and I go, I'm not really feeling this. I'm going to make a third one. Now I get another bonus. So my third character is at 20%, like movement speed. I don't think you actually need the bonus to XP, but the movement speed or something to just make it faster would be so much nicer, because you're already spending currency buying all the standard leveling uniques. But I find the leveling process gets just tedious.
I think that's a fantastic idea. What if you added like a partial Tabouleh to it? So you've done one playthrough, so you get this like fake Tabouleh that's 2 white sockets linked. Right. And then once you've done your third Tabouleh, or once you've done your third playthrough, you get that's added to, you get a third socket that's linked.
The thing is, I find like once you've done a character into endgame, to buy an 8 or 9 chaos chest to run you through though becomes like really cheap. But it's actually funny you say that, because that leads me into another thought. This is the stuff that goes through my head when I'm mindlessly leveling and just and just wanting
and
to
you're
get
hating leveling.
Yeah, well, 100%. Yeah. But I started thinking, I don't know why I actually started thinking about the races. I think it was because in my head I was like, man, with all these uniques, I'm awesome. Like I'm flying through this stuff. And I remember seeing like them do the race at ExileCon and being like, what the frick are these guys doing? I was completely lost. But I started thinking, wouldn't it be fun to watch a race where the contestants get to pick like 2 uniques? Like you get a choice of any 2 uniques in the game that you're going to start the game with. Now you have to be able to use them or whatever, but there will not be any more uniques that will drop after that. Like that's just it.
That's cool.
And
that's
just
a good idea.
I don't know. I thought it'd be fun to give, like, I'd be curious to see what people would pick as like their go-to uniques. Because it wouldn't be the same things I'm sure that I would pick. They're probably not taking a gold rim to just stack those resists. Anyway, this is what happens to my head when I'm leveling.
This is the danger when you're not solo self-found on a first playthrough. You start
right.
thinking
Yep.
it's dangerous.
It is dangerous. So
they are good thoughts. I also like that you didn't ask me a question.
yeah, I posed questions and I answered for you.
Thank you.
Do you have any opinion? Well, because you told me they were
No,
cool.
I liked the opinion you gave me.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it.
So I
don't remember which one it was, but
we're definitely on the same page.
Yep, just like Jim Carrey, tractor beam sucked me right in.
Yeah. So anyway, that's me talking. Okay, so let's hop into some new stuff with PoE. I don't remember. I know there was talk of 3.9.2 coming last episode, but it actually came out during the time in between. So 3.9.2 came out a day later. I think B came out. So let's 3.9.2. I'm just going to quickly bring up a couple of the things that I saw in there that stood out. I don't know if there was anything that you cared about, but let's do 3.9.2 first. So
in 3.9.2, there was there were a lot of good changes, especially, well, you do it.
Well, they brought in we talked about this last episode too, the Metamorph organs, the selling 3 for 1. I actually tested it once it came out. I love that they did it sort of the way I was hoping that they would, where it's very much like when you trade in 5 uniques from the prophecy, it's just a gift wrapped one. So you have no idea what it is. I think that's perfect. I love that because it's still random. There's no way to, manipulate it to get what you want. So I love that part. I saw a lot of Awakener fight changes. I assume people love that. Not there. Haven't fought them. So I read through them. It makes
it seem like it's a lot less RNG, the Awakener fight. It seems like it's now like still difficult, but it's a much more, I guess it's the environment isn't going to be so random that you have no chance if RNG isn't on your side. So I think from what it seems like the changes are really legit and good.
Yeah, just reading it sounded really cool. Again, from not being able to experience the fight, what it actually said to me when I read it is it answered a lot of the things I've seen people complain about on the forums and on Reddit about that fight and the difficulty. I know there's some changes coming with the stairs. It was actually pretty funny to watch some video clips on Reddit of people getting stuck in the stairs because there's a phase within the Cirrus fight where you have to run through this maze to get out. But if it happens to be on the stairs of the fight, you can actually get trapped and then you're just dead. So I guess that's something that's coming. So anyway, there was that. They said that they fixed the bug where updating an item filter on the website would deselect it in game. I don't know if this has anything to do with me, but I've noticed a lot with my filter that I'll load the game up and my filter's just turned off.
It's on default.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not sure what. And in fact, and this could just be the SSF thing. When I left SSF, my filters that I followed were gone. There were actually none there. I had to go back onto my account, unfollow them, and then refollow them, and then they showed up. So that's kind of weird. I'm not sure if that's meant to be like that.
Did you do that pre or post 3.92?
Post 3.9, because I moved. Well, oh no, you know what? I actually don't know for sure. I don't know that part for sure. Because I did play my spectral throw into this week a little bit, so I'm not sure. And then there was one at the very bottom, and it was re-straightened the curved paths on the world map. And I just went, huh? Why?
Yeah, why?
Who cares?
Who cares if people don't like it?
But is that why? Is that because people didn't like? Who cares?
There's no reason.
I'm so curious because the one thing that pissed me off the most about this one is give me some details. Why? Like, was it just because
it's probably because they don't want to call the world whiny babies, but they're just trying to please.
Was it really bothering people?
You can't say that as a company.
I don't remember seeing posts. I don't remember seeing people complaining.
I did see it, and I couldn't. It took me a long time to figure out that they were only talking about the maps, the act maps as you're going through the story.
Right. Those are the only ones that are curved.
It's not even like mapping. It's not anything else. It's just the line from, I don't know, Settlement A in Act 2 is slightly curved or swiggled to the next thing.
The lines have always been curved in the Atlas. They've always been curved in the Atlas. They were now curved in the map for when you were going through the acts, and why straighten them back out?
Weird.
I mean, I don't want to swear for no reason, but who gives a shit? It doesn't make any sense.
That was a very valid reason.
Make them zigzag. Make them zigzag. That's what I want them to do next. Like, just make them like it has to have like 4 very sharp 90-degree turns before it can connect to the next point. It's so
90%.
It's so dumb.
It was silly, but I mean, at least it's not important.
No, it's not at all. It just made me laugh. I was like, and then no detail at all. Just like, yep, they've been restraightened. So anyway, that's 3.92. 3.92B came out, I think, 2 days later or a day later, and there were some changes to Taines Lab. I know people said that there were problems if you ran him too many times. You'd get too many like items on the floor, monsters on the floor. So now they made it so you could control click his lab to start a new instance of it, which is kind of weird that they didn't have that in the beginning, but that's fine. I thought that was cool. And other than that, 3.9.2 was like, meh.
Okay. So Leo gets here. Okay. 3.92B was announced before the patch came out, and it didn't have the map stash conversion for standard players. And I was really surprised because the last time this happened and standard players had to wait a month and a half for conversion to happen, it was, shortly after the break. It was around this time frame after that Christmas break. And so I was really surprised. And on that post, there was a lot of people that were complaining. And I was surprised that there's more than 3 people that play standard that cared. And so it made me feel pretty good, except for the fact that it wasn't included. And it was awesome because the announcement page didn't have map stash tab conversion, but the actual patch notes right at the top. The first line is, they re-enabled map stash tab conversion for 3.9. So it's a big deal. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for like 4 people that play the game, it's a big deal. But
there was at least 6 that commented on the thread, which means there's at least 12 that care.
I don't think that's true. I think it was like 3 people doing it 4 times.
With different logins? Come on.
Yeah, probably. Just to really drive that point.
Anyway,
well, that's cool. So you have your conversion. It's not on PC yet, just on console. Or no, wait, so the other way around.
Yeah, it's the other way around. Yeah. But yeah, it's on PC now. 3.9.2B has map stash tab conversion, but I only play standard on console and it hasn't been released yet. Apparently, there's been some bugs. I don't know how legit these complaints are, but that some people's maps are getting destroyed or they're disappearing. I don't know how legit that is or not. Maybe like old shaped maps didn't have a way of properly converting. I don't know. But the one really nice thing about playing on console is if a patch has issues, they don't release it on Xbox or PlayStation until the patch is solid on PC. And then so sometimes it'll be like, let's say 3.9.2 had some pretty big crashes and it was destroying maps for some reason. They might not release 3.9.2 until 3.9.2D, for example. And then we'll get that, but it'll be completely stable. So I'm fine waiting, especially now that I know my favorite feature is coming back.
So can you at least now at this point tell the staff and all of the hard workers at GGG that you hope they had a good Christmas?
I hope you all had a fantastic Christmas, and thank you for bringing it back. No, I just hope they had a great Christmas. It was a long wait, but I'm glad it's back.
So they also have now they've been coming out with some of the recap videos, or not recap, I guess it's just the recorded
full
video
interview.
Right, from the interviews from ExileCon. So we thought it'd be kind of fun to go over them briefly. We'll just do one each episode. We're going to be a little bit behind, and that's okay. So the one that we I think it was the first one that came out was the building the world of Path of Exile 2 with Eric Olofsson.
Yeah,
I loved it. We talked a little bit about these interviews and the different things that happened. The ones that happened on the main stage while we were there, they were my favorite. I think I told you while I was there, I was messaging you because I was just sitting in the auditorium for like the whole day while my kid was, Ethan was running around getting signatures, and I didn't know who a lot of them were, so I just chilled out in the auditorium and watched all of them. I saw every single one of the ones that was in the main auditorium. So I
didn't even leave to go to the bathroom.
No, I had a Dasani water bottle, not a sponsor. But I do remember Eric's chat. So I got to see this one live. I watched it again just to, recap on it. And yeah, so what did you think of it?
I really like Eric's interviews. It's not piped up for presentation. He's just talking like he's talking to someone else, and there's a lot of honesty in how he answers questions, and I really like how he goes about talking about the game. I find that even though I get really excited for like direct questions, and when like Jonathan's being interviewed by Bayclast or something, and I really get excited for those interviews, but I find that when it's the interviews like this one where they're talking about just building the world, where I actually find out a lot more information that I'm curious about. Like, I really like hearing about some of the core design that people, like players, won't know. Like, I really thought it was neat that they had a rule that you had to be, that from the point of signing in, creating an account with PoE, you had to be in gameplay within 5 minutes. I think that's really cool. That's not anything that anybody would know unless you heard them say it. And I think that's, a very thoughtful kind of thing to consider and design around. I really liked that there was a point where he said, this is part of the core features. There's only a couple that I wanted to bring up, but he said players with PoE 2, players are going to struggle, and they're going to have to be really persistent or clever to be successful. And I'm sure lots of balance changes will happen, but that's their overall goal. And I think that's really cool. We saw that with a lot of the gameplay demos that they had, that there's definitely a slower change of pace. I like that they had, how right now there's a nice mix of 9 classes to choose from. They kind of reinforce that they're keeping a lot of core mentality from Path of Exile in general. Like, there's always going to be a strength character, a dex character, and an intelligence character. So I thought that was really, really cool to hear too, just to make sure that they're not dramatically changing the game. It's just a better version of Path of Exile. So there were some pretty cool points. There's other stuff in there too, but what did you think?
I liked it. It's cool to listen to him talk. I actually really like, similar to you, I like that he's actually not a professional speaker, clearly isn't overly comfortable being up there. And that to me seems a little more authentic and real, listening to him talk about, something he's obviously very passionate about, and being semi-forced to speak about it in front of a large crowd of people. So that to me was kind of fun to watch. I liked a lot of the same stuff. Well, first off, there's a new default portal I think he was talking about, and you kind of see a bit of it in one of the frames. Okay, I want that now. I don't want to wait till Path of Exile 2. I'm so tired of the blue one. We've had it literally since the beginning of time.
I think that's cool to have something like that. I hope they keep that too.
Well, he said it is. I'm assuming it is. He said that the
old one and the new one.
No,
the old default and the new one.
Yeah, play Path of Exile 1. So that actually comes up to something I'm going to ask you about in a second. But yeah, it was cool. He talked about the Marauder. When he was talking about the Marauder, he was talking about the Karui stuff. When we were there, we got to go to this war museum in Auckland. And it's incredible how much of the heritage and the history of New Zealand is in Path of Exile, the game. Like, you literally could go into this museum and see Path of Exile structures and artwork like that is actually in the game. It was really cool. And seeing like Roas, like these ginormous, terrifying, I didn't even know they were a thing. These things were friggin' it was huge. It wasn't an ostrich. I'm telling you, this thing is like disgustingly huge. So I thought it was really cool seeing a lot of the same stuff. And he kind of mentioned that a little bit. So that kind of took me back, which was cool. There was some talk about the item progression, which is going to look, they kind of do that now, like as you're leveling,
they do.
The items don't look great. And as you level up higher, the items kind of get a bit fancier, but it sounds like they're taking that to a way bigger level, which I like. Cause then you're not always feeling like you have to do the MTX thing. So that's kind of cool. Okay. So he had a question. I think it was the first question he was asked, but I thought it was awesome. And the question was, are you worried about world design getting lost to the crazy skills and all the MTX that's going on, which I thought was such a cool question to ask a designer, like the person who's created
so much effort into what you're doing, and then it's just going to be covered over anyway.
Yeah. And I thought his answer was great. He kind of just said like, no, well, we want it to be sort of secondary. We want you to just enjoy it. And there's always going to be flashy and crazy things happening. But I think a lot of the stuff, when I think about it, it's the stuff that you unknowingly appreciate about the game. And I thought that was really cool. I thought the question was great because it is actually something that you don't really think about. The fact that these people are spending hours upon hours designing this world that just gets completely covered with heralds and just, you don't even see it anymore.
Yeah.
So, and then of course I knew you were going to love Dark Souls. I love that. That's an influence.
I don't know if
for them.
anybody listening knows, but I'm a big Dark Souls fan. I do my best not to bring it up in the podcast.
That's 2 in a row now.
It is.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
That Dark Souls, he's a big fan of the series itself, the storytelling, the world building. It was really neat to hear him say that it was basically for him. I'm everybody else has their influence as well, but for him, it was Dark Souls and Diablo 2 were the biggest influencers for him.
Right. Diablo 2, I mean, has been a big influence for Path of Exile since the beginning.
Yes. Yeah.
But I thought that was cool too. And what was cool was the way he talked about how Dark Souls has that influence, on how the world is set up within Dark Souls and, all these interconnected things. And I thought that was really cool. There was one part that made me sad. Somebody asked him about if they're going to bring in cutscenes. And so in Path of Exile 1, I'm quite confident there's one cutscene. And I think it's one of the easiest cutscenes to skip because if you accidentally click, the cutscene ends. And it's right
Is it
after
the Cativa one?
It's right after you kill is it Innocence? Right after you kill Innocence for the first time, as long as you don't touch anything, or maybe it's right after you speak to Sin. Actually, Sin comes down and I think you click on Sin once and it brings in a cutscene. I think that's the only cutscene I've ever seen, like in game. And
it's the one where Cativa's coming out of the statue in Oriath, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a cool cutscene.
It is a cool cutscene. I'm a little sad that there's no plans to bring any into Path of Exile 2. I like them.
I like cutscenes too. But that's okay. It's not something like for me, when I'm playing Path of Exile, I'd be skipping it. Like I'd see it once or twice, but then I'd be like, click, yeah, let's go. I want to kill.
You wouldn't the first time though. Almost any cutscene in any game, it's that immersiveness. It's that storytelling. You watch it the first time and it's really cool.
Yeah. But I also don't want to wait for a minute to load on console.
Well, there's an easy fix to that. We've talked about it, and I feel like in every damn podcast, stop playing on console.
No way. It's the best.
Jose. So did you have any other thoughts on his thing?
Yeah, there were a couple other things that I actually quite liked. You were mentioning MTXs as well, and covering things up, and I thought that it was pretty neat, despite the fact that MTXs are where they make their money and all the work that they put into all the art design that ends up getting covered up by that spent money in MTX. There's a little bit of those rules that I was mentioning where they have internally something like skill effects, MTX. They have to have minimum durations on screen so that players are still aware of their dangers and where enemies are, and other things. And
sorry, do you mean minimum or maximum?
They have a maximum duration.
Okay, yep.
To minimize the amount of effects and how long they're on the screen so that players can still ensure that they're safe, so they're not completely overwhelmed, even if they've purchased it.
Unless it's spectral RF. Then you're screwed.
Oh man, the celestial RF.
Celestial,
oh my goodness,
sorry.
I can't see a thing. Yeah, it's just stars. I'm just like, I'll die. What are those weird pussing things from Malachi's area that they put those like exploding bleed circles on the ground?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I die from those all the time with celestial RF on.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
They had some. Yeah, never do it again. They had. He mentioned some, and I noticed some DS influence in his interview, which I thought was really cool. And then later on, he legitimately said it. But I thought they're intentionally going with vague storytelling for PoE 2, which I really like. That's my favorite kind of storytelling. He said they're going with vague storytelling. The world and the environment will tell the story for you, including like the weapon design and clothing design of different characters and the history of where like a Marauder outfit, like an all-strength outfit would come from as opposed to an all-dex outfit. How they're structured will look very different and will say a story. But he said the world and environment will tell a lot of the story. So even if you skip dialogue, you'll get what's going on, which is really cool. And he specifically said that Dark Souls and Diablo 2 were huge impacts to how they were designing the new, like, creepy and hopeless atmosphere that they had. And it was kind of neat. He went in to say that they basically are really trying to recreate a continuation of Diablo 2's atmosphere. So I thought that was kind of cool. And on that level, it actually seemed to be quite not an emotional sensitive point, but something that was really legitimately discussed for a long time. You know how Diablo has always had this cow level in Diablo 2, and then they had it in Diablo 3. Well, apparently they had a PoE had a huge discussion about having like that breaking wall dimension level in this game. And apparently they almost had like a cyberpunk, not cow level, but they almost had like a cyberpunk level that completely took you out of the environment. And apparently it was really close to making the game. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, he kind of called it the cyberpunk cow level. My favorite part about that was how he said it came like, I can't remember the exact term he used, but it was like scarily close to happening. Like he clearly did not want it to happen.
And I think one thing that GGG's always been really good at is not going too far with an idea because they know how hard it is to take it back.
Sure.
Like they really don't like, I remember it wasn't, I think it was Chris, one of Chris's interviews I read, where he actually really doesn't like how trade works on PC. It's too easy to get exactly what you want, but you can't take it back, right? They went forward with it too quickly, and now you can't take it back. And so something like that has taught them that you can't make big changes and then, oh, well, we don't like how it's working, so we're just going to completely change it back. So I thought that was kind of neat. And the cyberpunk level was exactly why he said, he's like, once you add it, it's really hard to take away because you're making a game for people. You're not just making a game for you.
So it's funny that you talk about the fact that he says he made trade too easy, and we're not going into this discussion because it's not on our notes at all, but there is a massive Reddit post going on right now that is centered around the trade system and how there's a lot of people that want a change and want to see something change with trade. So it'll be interesting to see how not that they do it. I don't think any game developer should ever do something just because people want it, but I'm curious how you respond to. It's a it's a well-written thread. I read it. I read the person, I don't know who it was, but I read the actual post, and it was well written, and I can I can definitely agree with a lot of it. But anyway, that's a totally different thing. But yeah, so the only last thing I was going to say about this particular building the world of Path of Exile 2 was I don't remember if it came up as a question, but it was one thing that stuck out to me, and I started thinking about it. There was a question regarding MTX and the current MTX that you get, but he actually said that MTX will be carried over to Path of Exile 2, which I think is great. That means if I bought an MTX, it will also be brought over to MTX or to Path of Exile 2. But he also said that it will look much better. It's going to be redesigned for Path of Exile 2. So all of the MTX are going to be redesigned for Path of Exile 2. Does that mean that redesign will also take effect on Path of Exile 1? Or will Path of Exile 1 still maintain its original design? And if it does, then I started thinking, well, what are they doing then when new MTX comes out? Are they designing two versions of it, one for Path of Exile 1 and one for Path of Exile 2?
I don't think so. I think they said that they would be updating them to look like it. Like, for example, they're keeping Path of Exile 1 to look like it's structured as is, but they're improving it graphically.
So do those graphical changes not affect the ones in Path of Exile 1?
Well, they're changing, like he mentioned, that they're going to be changing things like how the trees look, and like, when it's raining, things like the ground, rocks, armor will look wet. They're going to be changing graphics. So he mentioned that he's kind of excited to see how current MTX look in Path of Exile 2 with the update, how all that works in the background. But they did say that it's a ginormous, it's like a multi-year project for them to slowly update all the MTX and all of the unique base skins, but that they are going to do it. So I assume... Does
that update take effect for both versions of the game is what I'm curious about.
I would assume so. It's the same engine.
I don't know. When I heard that, the way he said it made it sound as if there was going to be a different version of it or a different look to it on Path of Exile 2, which that seemed insane to me.
Well, I think, yeah, the way that I took it was it is going to look different on PoE 2, but PoE 1 and PoE 2 are going to be run on the same product, right? Like I think it'll look the same no matter which campaign you're doing. That's how I took it. There was two more things. I didn't mean to take this long on this one, but there were two more things. Camera angle in PoE 1 right now drives me nuts. And I'm really excited. I don't know how much better it's going to be, but he mentioned that the camera angle is going to be further away, which is nice because I want to be able to see more, but it's also going to be a narrower scope. So you're going to see less of the map by default, but the camera is farther away. So your character is going to be a little bit smaller. So you'll be able to see more of what's happening within your area. So I thought that was pretty neat. And there was one really small comment he made that really made me excited. I have no idea how legit it is. He was talking about the different things that they were going to be able to do with armor when it was in your inventory. And he was talking about, maybe one day they'll be able to add, like if you get like just a loose, small little knife and pick it up, it can like dangle around or bump around in your inventory. He's like, that's something that we've talked about. It's not going to be in PoE 2, but it might be in PoE 3. And I was like,
he was so delayed in the way he said it, though, that it sounded very much like a joke.
It's happening. It is guaranteed.
2030.
Anyway, thank you everyone for your patience. We thought that video was really cool. And it's always amazing, even when you're just watching something about just how like the aesthetics and the building the world and the visual details. It's amazing how much you get. Even like Justin and I, we're not on that design side in any of our backgrounds. And it was really interesting for us. So
yeah, it was cool. Oh, that was good. We'll link it in the show notes in case for some reason you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So I don't remember how it came up. I think it was
Pita Pit.
It was maybe through Pita Pit. One of the things that came up was this, a complaint. I don't know. I guess it was a complaint about the way the Path of Exile is, how it's the general gist, because I'm not going to get into it because there was so much that was written in this thing. But one of the things we talked about was right now when you pick up Path of Exile for free, you only get 4 stash tabs, just 4 basic stash tabs. That's sort of what comes with the game. And the complaint was that that's not enough in the free version of the game, and that you're forcing players to make real money. It's not
actually a free to play game because you can't do much with 4 stash tabs.
Okay, well, that's the argument. That's not our stance. That's the argument.
No, that's what the comment was.
And so we were chatting about this. So we talked a little bit about it, and I started thinking about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I just thought, if you think that you deserve more than 4 stash tabs for a free game, go find a different game. Like you can still play the game. I would never be able to play the game with 4 stash tabs. No way. But that's because I've had all the stash tabs. I've been playing it for a really long time. And when I started thinking about it, okay, the stash tabs go on sale every 3 weeks.
Yep.
In the sale, once the sale goes on, so if I was to think about all of the stash tabs that you can purchase, for me, the currency stash tab and the map stash tab are like probably couldn't play without stash tabs. I do have
currency and map.
Right. I have all of the other ones as well, but I feel like those two are the two that I just couldn't, I don't think I could play the game without. And when they're on sale, you're spending maybe $4 to $6 on the currency tab, and I think it's just a little bit more for the map tab. I think it goes down to like $8 or something. Is that when it's on sale? Yeah. And I just thought, like, spend a couple bucks. It just irritated me that somebody who's playing, you can play the entire game if you want to with just 4 stash tabs. I remember playing the game without all these fancy stash tabs of 4. You just played it differently. But the fact that people think that they're deserving of more than what they're given is insane to me for a free game. And then I think the thing that really put me over, sorry, I'll give you a chance to sort of give your side on this in a minute.
No,
but
team Justin, you go.
That's right. The thing that really irritated me was their comparison in this argument was games like Diablo 3. Well, unless I'm missing something, Diablo 3 is not a free game. You don't just go and download it and then you just get to play it. You paid for it up front. And Diablo 3 still has a limit to how many stash tabs you're getting. as you play through
Yeah,
it.
it's like
It's not
300 things or something.
right. It's not unlimited. And so it totally soured my opinion of this, because I just thought, my thought instantly was, nah, you're just being a baby. If you're not happy with 4 stash tabs, then spend a couple dollars. It's a fraction of what you would have to pay for any game right now to get yourself a currency stash tab. You don't even need a map tab until you get to end game. So maybe you're not even going to be that into the game by the time you get to the end. And so then you've spent like $4.
Yeah.
It seemed like such a silly argument to me.
Yeah. I can see where some people come from depending on their game experience from the past, wherever they've come from, but free is free. And there's the thing that here, when I was playing Diablo 3, I ended up like rage quitting because of how much money they were asking from me, right? I was playing Diablo. I remember when it first came out on console for the 360, and I was super excited because there weren't very many good co-op RPGs that I could play with my wife. And so it finally came out. We're having a great time. We're spending tons of stuff. And then all of a sudden more DLC comes out. Okay, well, we buy it, right? And then we spend... And we were wanting to play on multiple consoles in the same house. And at that point, Microsoft, right, there was a 360, so you couldn't share games like that. You had to buy 2 copies. And then you're getting the DLC. But then they came out with like the Reaper edition. And only that version was going to get updates, not the old version that you'd already spent tons on. So then you have to buy that version on the 360. But then they came out with the Reaper version on the Xbox One, and then they came out with the Necromancer pack after that, and they would delay, or not delay, but they would refuse updates for any of the older versions, even though it was the same game. So to get further updates, you had to have the Necromancer update, and it infuriated me. And so when I found Path of Exile, 4 stash tabs was amazing. I didn't care about selling. I didn't care about any kind of money. It was just so overwhelming that I spent half of my time just trying to figure out a good way to organize my stash tabs. And I remember playing, we probably both had 1,000 hours into the game, while you 10,000 hours before the currency stash tab even existed. Right. And you would play through, that was when there were 4 acts, and you would play through them 3 times. And well, I think one thing that the current setup now has is people expect that you should have an infinite amount of space. But one thing that I really liked about Path of Exile before all of this, and don't get me wrong, I have every stash tab that exists as well. But one thing I quite liked about the old mentality was you don't keep everything. And part of the difficulty of the game is its harshness of every aspect, right? Like, it's a harsh leveling system. Oh, shoot, I don't know where to go on the tree, and I really want to spend these points because I'm weak, but I refund points, I'm not getting very much, and I really don't want to make a wrong choice. Like, leveling is tough. Deciding which weapon to use over the other is really tough. And what gear should I vendor because I don't have the stash tab space is a part of that difficulty. And I really I think what they give is fantastic. I've heard some people say that maybe you should have a stash tab as part, like, don't sell it, have it as part of the free, one of the 4 free stash tabs. Oh, sorry. Yes, I am. Yeah. The currency stash tab. And I don't know. No. Like, I think, like, look at how much these stash tabs cost, right? The currency stash tab, not on sale. In our currency, anyway, it costs $7.50. You look at footprints, and they're $15.
Right.
Like, the things that are beneficial to your quality of life are a lot cheaper than the things that are completely pointless. Like, one of the auras that I wanted to bring up an MTX. I don't know if we'll get to it this podcast, but what's it called? The Wrangler Set, I think it is. I think it's like $36 for the set.
Yeah.
And the stash tab, $7.
Yeah.
But the currency stash tab is $7. Like, I personally think that this is one of the most generous free-to-play games. And I think if you want a game to be 100% free, you have to make tough choices with your inventory. I think it's very generous.
Yep. In the end, I think you're just being a whiner if that's what you're going to find to complain about.
It depends what games you come from, but free is free, and more than one stash tab, I think, is being quite considerate. and we have 4. But that's just us two, right? There's millions of people that play this game, and there's a lot of people that agree with the individual that wrote as well. So
probably not. I think we speak for the masses here.
Sure.
Spend a couple bucks, get a couple tabs.
All right.
Okay, so you started talking about some MTX that you like. So what are you talking about? The Wrangler set?
So we were at the grocery store, and you were supposed to be listening to me as I'm following you around the grocery store while you're doing important life things. And I'm talking about what MTX I should buy on this huge MTX. What was it?
Hold on. I want everybody who's listening to understand that this is what I have to deal with. I'm in a grocery store with other human beings all around me, and
including me.
Okay, but not quietly. We're talking Path of Exile. Now,
there was an MTX sale just after Christmas, and I was on a time limit. That MTX sale ended at like 7 or 8 p.m. our time, and we're shopping at around 6 p.m. And I didn't have a Cyclone MTX yet for my RF build. So you hush your mush.
I'm just saying, when you are standing waiting to order meat at the meat section of a grocery store and the person beside you just wants to talk Path of Exile, it gets a little awkward.
Well, let's just say that I had some important things to discuss and you weren't listening. So now I have to bore everybody else on this podcast just so I can get your attention.
All right, let's go for it.
So I'm having trouble deciding which MTX to buy for Cyclone, right? For my RF build. And I had 2 options. Both of them are blue, but there's an $8 difference. Now, none of them are actually blue. One is blue with like some purple, and then another one's blue with some white. But I don't want blue with white, and I don't want blue with purple. So it was a really tough choice because the one that was more expensive, $8 difference. Anyway, I bought the cheaper one, and guess what? There's no purple. It's all blue.
So what's your problem?
Well, then I had a problem. Now I didn't. And thanks for your help, by the way. You're a great listener.
I feel like I probably just said buy the cheaper one and leave me alone.
You would never say buy the cheaper one.
That's true.
But you would say leave me alone.
I would say leave you alone. Leave me alone.
So anyway, I want people's opinions because I think apparently this set, I checked it out and I heard some people that really didn't like it. I don't know why. It has a sweet aura that matches the Sawblade Cyclone, the Wrangler armor set. I'd like us to put this into the podcast notes here because I really like the Wrangler set. And it's probably going to be the last armor set I buy for a long time. But I think it matches everything. And I think it's fantastic. I'm curious what you think. Do you know what it looks like?
I do. Yeah, I think I have it. I'd have to double check, but...
Of course you have it.
Why do you not have it?
Because it costs money. It's like $36.
Oh, but you just gotta wait till it goes on sale.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely will. But anyway, I wanted to know if people like the Wrangler set. To me, I think it's awesome. To me, it looks like, with the exception of the skull and the dreads, which looks like Dark Souls 2, I thought like the set looked almost like original Fallout stuff. You know what I mean? Just kind of.
You like the Sawblade look to Cyclone? It was one of my. It was one of my less favorite.
Good. It only looks good with a big AOE.
Yep.
I don't have a big AOE with Cyclone, but it does look really cool if you have a ginormous AOE. I don't think it does very much for me when it's small.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, I just wanted to bore you a little bit because you refused to listen to me at the grocery store. Thanks for your time.
Now you have my answer.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So, you know that thingy that failed when people wanted to trade in their transactions or trade in their MTX, their duplicates, and they GGG kind of bombed how it went about?
Yes.
For those that don't know, there was a time not that long ago where a lot of people that spend a lot of money on MTXs and mystery boxes and things like that have a lot of duplicate MTX. And so GGG came up with a method that they could attempt to get another one at whatever discounted price. So what you would have to do, I believe it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, you would have to buy this transaction box from the store. It would cost money, like $3. And then you get to throw in a few MTX, and then you'd get a random one back. And for a lot of different reasons, it failed. It had a huge rejection through the PoE community, and GGG actually removed it very shortly after implementing it. Mm-hmm. And I really liked the idea. I think we've mentioned it briefly in one of our previous episodes, and I really liked the idea, but not paying money every time you wanted to attempt at getting a new MTX. And so what I was thinking was that, you know how with the music that the music thing that you have for your hideout now, where you can pick different songs from the soundtrack of the game, and that can be your theme that's playing in the background for your hideout. All it does is, I think it costs $5, right? And then you can choose out of like 200 different sound effect or sound tracks. It's awesome. I think that's what they should do with the MTX Trader. Sure, make it cost like a cheap amount, $5, but then it's just something that you have that you can use an infinite amount of times. Bring it back, make it cost $3 or $5, but then you have it permanently, and you can do whatever degrading system they have to make sure that you're not ripping them off in transaction funds. But pay the $5, you permanently have that box that lets you trade, and then it comes back.
One of the biggest problems, though, with that trade box, besides the fact that it was really poorly implemented, was the fact that you could trade and get the exact same MTX back.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you fix that, right? You come up with trade rules that are coded into it so that it's not going to infuriate your fans and your player base. But at least that would be a way that they could implement you actually paying for the product in a small amount, but then it has a value to the player once it's been purchased. Anyway, I just thought of that when the music thing came out and was available a month or two ago. I thought, or maybe it was like 4 months ago now, but the first thing I thought of was that MTX trading system, that it would be perfect for it.
I like the music thing. I'm not a fan of the trading thing at all. Not necessarily your suggestion. I just don't like the method that they looked at to how to deal with MTX. But we've talked about this before. It doesn't matter what in the end what they do. I just don't like the way that they tried to do it. Okay, so we talked just briefly about this the other day when you and I were chatting. It's actually kind of comes around the hideout conversation. I wish one thing that I've really gotten a little bit irritated with is I love the new master missions, obviously, since they made that change. I love that you don't have to deal with them.
Stacking's awesome. Stacking master
missions. I love all
missions.
that stuff. I don't want to go talk to those masters though to load a map. I really wish that somehow within the map itself, when I put a map into the device, I wish there was something that I could just from like along the side of it or something, I could select. I want to do Xana's mission for this one. I want to do I want to pick which master I want to do, because what I'm finding is the design of your hideout kind of takes a bit of a hit, because you can't do the map very quickly. If you want to have like some intricate, cool design to your hideout, you could be running to a completely opposite corner to go and find Alva.
Oh, what you're saying is now you have to like basically all of your NPCs are hovered around your Atlas device.
They're just sitting now for me right beside my map device, and I don't like it. I would rather actually have some function or design to them. So I wish that there was some way to actually select which master mission I wanted to do from the map device instead of making me go talk to them. I love how everything else works. I love that I can hit G. I can see how many I have for each, tier of maps, and I love that part of it. But I wish there was some way to select it directly from the map device versus going to talk to Xana, telling her to load up a map, and then running all the way back to my device. Anyway, that's just me. That's something I want.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. It's that's how I've had to do it as well. All my masters, I've had to design my entire hideout around just being in a small little section. So it'd be nice if they change it. Would you be fine with a busier screen, like a busier HUD? That's something that a lot of PoE players complain about, right? With the HUD just getting busier and busier with options. I think I'd be fine with maybe another drop-down menu. You know where Xana's mods are listed? If you had just a secondary drop-down menu that was the same length and width, and it just showed you which master had how many of which tier.
I don't even need to see how many have of each tier. Keep that in the G menu in the Atlas, but make it so that when I go to the map device and put my map in, just like along the left, I get a freaking checkmark box. Like for which master's name it is, I put a check mark in that box. I mean, the game, if you go to Xana and try to load up a Xana mission for, a tier that you don't have, it just tells you can't do this. It doesn't have, you don't have an existing available master mission for this tier. They can do the same thing. Like I understand the whole idea of, I don't know, immersive or whatever that crap is about, trying to make it so you go and talk to the person. But to me, it kind of kills the hideout design and vibe, because, and it's happened. I've noticed a lot as I've gotten back into trading again, that a lot of bases, a lot of hideouts have masters just like, in a line right at the map device. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's something I'd like to see.
Oh, me too. Me too. I quite like the new hideout system, though. They've added a lot of really cool features to it. And so I think they've come a long way with it. But I do agree. The current master mission selecting system does kind of conflict with creativity for sure. Speaking of creativity, though, you know that skill chain hook that I don't think I've ever seen anybody use. I haven't looked it up, but I'm curious how many people actually use chain hook. Anyway, I would love chain hook if it brought enemies to me. Like Scorpion, from Mortal Kombat, get over here. I would love it if chain hook, instead of moving me, moved the enemy.
How? What? Like just one single enemy? It moves one
well,
single
yeah,
enemy?
or however many it hit, right?
I mean, to like greater multiple projectiles.
yeah. Use GMP and LMP with it. I don't know. Maybe have it coupled with stun. So if you would actually stun the enemy, then it would bring them back to you.
Is there a limit to weight?
Oh, I don't know. It's just an idea.
How are you pulling
I don't use
Katava
chain hook
to you?
I don't use chain hook because it moves me way too much too fast. And sometimes I'm trying to hit, like when I was playing around with the skill to see if I would like it, I would try and click on an enemy. And especially on console, when you're just using an analog stick and you can't do specific clicking, you're going to the wrong person. And so unless I don't know, I just thought it would be cool. I know that there's a lot of red flags that would happen with how you would have to work around it, but I would like chain hook better if it brought enemies to me.
Yeah.
Good talk.
I'm going to have to disagree. You could use those gloves I talked about in the last, I think it was the last episode, that knockback pulls towards you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just do that. I want to see you pull Katava to yourself. That's ridiculous.
Well, come on. I mean, there's some, okay, come on.
It would be kind of funny to see him get yanked out of that hole.
Okay, well, how many people have you seen use chain hook?
I don't watch very many people play, so I have no idea. I feel like you can look that up.
Hey, look, I'm looking for a sweet chain hook build.
You know what, though?
Point me to a guide.
I will say, I feel like there was notes in the past about some chain hook issues and people talking about struggling with some issues that chain hook was having and some patch notes that were around it. So I assume some people...
You're making it up.
Maybe when it was brand new.
You're a liar.
So. Okay, so to sort of towards the end of this episode, because we're kind of getting towards the end of it now, they one of the other things they dropped was their development plan for 2020. We had I actually really liked it. We had an episode early on where we kind of looked back at what their development plan was for 2019 and sort of looked at it at the end of the year. How did it go? Did they kind of match the stuff that they, said that they were hoping for? So the development plan for 2020 came out. There was some stuff in there. Mainly, they talked about the fact that there's going to be 3.10, 0.11, 0.12, and 0.13 that are still going to come before Path of Exile 2 comes out.
And for those that aren't familiar with GGG's structure, every league is roughly 3 weeks. They did mention within this little development plan here that a couple of those are going to be maybe a couple weeks early or a couple weeks late, just so that timing's nice. But this does basically mean for 4 leagues, that's 3 months apiece on average. And so you're looking at least a year.
Right. And I found it a little bit funny when they talked about the timing, because I just thought, I thought of you instantly, because I was really hoping that Path of Exile 2 would come out at Christmas.
Just before the skeleton crew takes over.
Right before their skeleton crew. That was what I was really hoping for. So I read through the rest of the development plan for 2020. It, to me, reading it is not nearly as exciting as 2019's was, but I think that's kind of fair. I mean, 2019 held ExileCon, which was ginormous, right? And so that kind of supersedes a lot of stuff. And 2020... I guess the problem is if the game's not coming out in 2020, you can't really say, if PoE 2 is not coming out in 2020, you can't really say that it's part of the development plan for 2020. They talked about that there's going to be a lot of work into it and they're still putting, but it's not coming out 2020 for sure. Based on that many more leagues, there's no way this is coming out in 2020. So I feel like
they said that they would expect a public beta would be late 2020.
Somewhere around E3, they said they were going to have some more news or something.
They would show some significantly new content and features.
Right.
Maybe around E3.
It was cool to read the development plan for 2020, but it made me laugh a little bit, because obviously when we're still doing this at the end of this year and we do our recap of the 2020 year and, did they meet their goals? I don't think it's going to be hard to meet.
No, but I'm very excited for it. I mean, think about how much PoE 2 is in development now, how public it is, all the new features that, I mean, think about this. They said right here, significant that they're hoping to show some significantly new content and features in the middle of the year, maybe around E3. Wouldn't that be awesome if they had a setup for E3? Oh, that'd be awesome. Showing a video and everything. But anyway, I mean, basically these next 4 leagues are touch-up leagues. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And how awesome is that? Like, sure, you're coming out with new content. A couple of, they might have 1 or 2 big expansions, but this is all PoE 2 stuff now that you're heading down towards. And now that they've revamped melee, they've revamped minions, they've revamped spells, they've revamped bows. They might touch bows again. But now that they've revamped it all, and now they said they're progressively revamping bosses and monsters, like that's the whole game.
Yep.
Right. So now it's just touch-ups, it's perfect balances, and then boom, PoE 2. I'm excited. I think this is going to be a great year.
Those four leagues, those still have to be. There's got to be something to them. I mean, you can't just.
Oh, of course.
They can't be just like simple, boring somethings. Not that I want some craziness like some of the past leagues, but I'm curious to see what they do.
There's been so many. People have their own personal things, right? Like I loved zombies, and for a long time they just weren't relevant, right? People have their own niches in the game that they just focus on and really want to improve. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard people that are like just dreaming for a nothing league. Like, call it we're touching up the game league. And I think sure, their numbers would probably go down from their back end, but I hear a lot of people they just want a nothing league so that they can focus on a huge backlog of issues. And I don't know. I think PoE is big enough that if they took one league that just made it small, like if they did a Metamorph without the new Atlas type of thing and just could focus on a ton of back end stuff, I think that'd be awesome.
You can't do a nothing league.
They had a legacy league last year or the year before.
But that's still something.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like but it's just something where they're regurgitating old content for the sake of catching up on a backlog. I mean, maybe that's not what that league was, but I don't know. I think I would hope, they're probably not going to be, but I would hope that one of those is going to be like that. Maybe like 3.12.
Yeah, I think as a standard console player, your opinion should hopefully be taken very small. Because you're not even playing. Are you playing League right now?
Friends off. You have been unfriended. I don't know what other. I'm not on social media, so I don't know. I am thumbs downing you. I am unfriending you. I am unfollowing you. I have turned off notifications.
I can shop at grocery stores now in peace.
I will have more MTX discussions to have with you.
I can't wait. All right, well, I think that pretty much wraps up episode 9 of Forever Exiled, a Path of Exile podcast. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you next time on episode 10. I am, again, one of your hosts, Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days. Thanks for listening, and you better be listening to episode 10, otherwise...
Be sure to check out the show notes below. For more information about today's episode, you can find us online at www.foreverexiled.com and on the Tweeterverse at foreverexiled82.